This week in Jamaica Now, the dead baby scandal. The health minister takes to parliament to pacify tempers, but instead infuriates Jamaicans.
I don't want anyone to give an impression that these are young babies in a real sense.
The public defender subpoenas 3 hospital officials to explain the baby's deaths. The CCJ debate and the suspension of Marlene Malahoo Forte, why the opposition members stayed away. And 3 cops arrested in suspected contract killing of a Manchester businesswoman. The details of these and other stories coming up after the break.
Welcome to another episode of Lifestyle Today. We have more talk of food, fashion, and hot, sexy photos. Tired of those old, boring calendars? Well, Spring sensation Asafa Powell has some sexy photos for you to look at in 2015.
I'm Damian Mitchell in this week for Carleen Brown, and this is Jamaica Now. The embattled health minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson this week took to primetime advertisement on TV to say sorry after he infuriated Jamaicans with a comment in Parliament on the dead baby scandal. The minister misspoke while he was attempting to explain that the 19 babies who have died amid infectious outbreaks at 2 hospitals were premature.
When a baby is born under 2 pounds, under 7 months, their organ systems are not well developed. Their immune systems are significantly compromised. So I don't want anyone to give an impression that these are young babies in a real sense.
In a primetime TV ad a day later, Ferguson said sorry and sought to explain that what he said was not what he meant.
I would never disregard the life of any human being. I simply wanted to convey that premature babies are more susceptible to infection. I am before you, not only as the Minister of Health, but also a father who could not begin to imagine losing my child. And my niece Shalema was born premature, so I personally understand. I want to express my sympathies to the families affected and apologize to them and all Jamaicans.
Meanwhile, Dr. Ferguson says there has been no new infections either at the University Hospital of the West Indies in St. Andrew or the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James. But he reported that the baby's death toll has increased from 18 to 19. And in Parliament on Tuesday, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller steered clear of calls for Ferguson to resign or be fired. However, in a 73-second intervention, the Prime Minister said she hoped that Ferguson and his team will implement systems to prevent a repeat of the dead baby scandal. Meanwhile, the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Marion Bullock-Decas, says in September when the University Hospital of the West Indies wrote to her, it did not tell her it was dealing with a current infectious outbreak. On September 7th, the hospital wrote to Dr. Bullock-Decas about infections in its neonatal intensive care unit, which resulted in the deaths of several babies. However, Dr. Decas did not reply until September 21. This week, Dr. Decas said she did not take any action at that time, as her information was that the infections had already been contained.
The letter of September 7th, there were 2. One spoke about cases that occurred from June 4th to 14th. That had been contained, and there was no mention of any current case. The other letter spoke about cases that had occurred in August. There is no need in our protocol to advise the minister of all reports that come from all hospitals about all matters. There was no indication of any current outbreak.
The CMO said she was not informed of an ongoing outbreak at the University Hospital until October 16, and the ministry immediately took action to help the hospital. In the meantime, Dr. Bullock-Decas said she will not step down as the Chief Medical Officer. And the UHWI CEO, Dr. Cecil White, and the Medical Chief of Staff, Professor Trevor McCartney, have resigned over the dead baby scandal. But the Office of the Public Defender has subpoenaed them to explain the circumstances that led to the deaths of 12 premature babies at the hospital. Board Chairman Sterling Suarez has also been subpoenaed. Opposition senators this week stayed away from the Senate for the CCJ debate despite the lifting of the suspension of their colleague, Senator Marlene Malahoo Forte. Their absence on Thursday prompted the government to suspend the debate on the three bills to replace the UK-based Privy Council as Jamaica's final appeal court with the Caribbean Court of Justice. The opposition senators are demanding an apology from the Senate President, Floyd Morris, for suspending Malahoo Forte and also want him to reply to a letter they wrote to him. Morris has said he will not say sorry. The drama started last week when Marlene Malahoo Forte failed to provide a letter from the Privy Council, which she said indicated that talks were being held about a possible visit of the law lords. Morris suspended Malahoo Forte from the upper house, saying her action amounted to contempt. 3 policemen are now in custody in connection with the contract killing of a Mandeville businesswoman. Norma Coleman was shot dead on October 23. Her husband, Vincent Coleman, has since surrendered to the police for questioning. Meanwhile, the head of the Criminal Investigations Branch, Assistant Commissioner Elan Powell, is reporting a worrying increase in family members hiring criminals to kill their relatives. The development came as the police commissioner met with senior members of the force to identify strategies to curb the spiraling murder tally. Between January 1 and October 24, 1,016 people were killed in Jamaica. This is a 24% jump when compared with the corresponding period last year, when 822 people were killed. It was a large and restless crowd that gathered in Petersfield, Westmoreland on Sunday to hear from PNP President, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller. The party held a mass rally in the parish on Sunday as part of its pre-election activities. While Mrs. Simpson Miller made her 40-minute presentation, the once jubilant crowd lost interest, with many starting to walk away. However, Simpson Miller used her presentation to reel off a list of capital projects under her government. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may tune in to Power 106 FM for regular updates. Follow us on Twitter at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. I'm Damian Mitchell, and before we go, outrage on social media over the health minister's comment, "not babies in the real sense."